pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Everybody have a chance to go over the minutes from January 13th and February 6th. And bills. So do we have a motion to approve the minutes from January 13th and February 6th and bills?
I'll make a motion to approve.
Scott has the first motion, do I have a second?
I'll second.
Willie seconds. Public comment? Public comment? All in favor, aye?
Aye.
PSO report.
Oh, good. The officer's gonna be here tonight, so, from Danny Barnett. We donated $500 for the secondary elementary ski trip. We donated $200 to help support the drama club with their upcoming performances. One of the days during the school's kindness week, we served hot chocolate to the students and staff. We helped support the sophomore class with their cookie decorating activity for Big Links, Little Links in January. For Valentine's Day, we arranged to purchase a cookie for any student that is not already receiving one. We signed up to host a community dinner at the next parent-teacher conference. We will be doing donkey basketball again this year. It will be on May 6th. Team week is coming up soon. It is tentatively scheduled for mid to late March.
Do we have a staff report?
Hi. We had the honor roll ski trip last week. Lego League went to Bozeman this weekend. This week is the Big Links, Little Links with the President's Day theme. Senior night, Saturday night. Students are also working hard on their books for Battle of the Books. They're gonna have that battle on March 12th in Missoula Public Library. And that's all I have.
Thank you. Yes. And when did you say Battle of the Books was?
March 12th.
All right, do you have a student? No? All right. Do we have any public comments for the board?
Don't believe so, let's see.
Nope. Right along. All right, do we have any action items? Nope. Informational? Calendar?
Calendar of events is in the packet. And also give you the latest newsletter.
Yes. Any questions? on that?
Yes, when is the next open house or?
April 3rd.
All right. AD update?
Yeah, so since last meeting, I went to the MHSA conference where they had the proposals we talked about in the previous meeting. I'll give you a quick rundown of those, actually I won't, I don't know that. Districts for high school basketball is coming up next week. We have senior night on Saturday, for our 3 seniors. We do have a pep assembly on Wednesday. As far as the seating for the tournament, honestly, I can guess. The boys play as early as 9 a.m. and as late as 6 p.m. I believe. The girls play as early as 10:30, possibly, as late as 7:30. So really, we don't know anything until after Saturday. That final game actually will finish the seating in the tournament. And then back to the MHSA meeting. the proposals are out there. The one up to, we talked about is the award rule, you just up the value of it, you can buy more stuff, I guess. So it was a smaller amount, now it's up to like 500. Another one that passed was the 3-game suspension for fans who were ejected. That one passed. One of the other proposals about that NIL, which is that amateur rule. And that one did pass, fairly unanimously. That's where an athlete can profit from their likeness, image, and all that stuff. So, like an athlete could go do a commercial for some company and make money off of it, as long as it's not tied to the school. So that one passed. Which the other part of that is what's in the state legislature as far as the schooling portion of it. If we decide, or they decide to do more like the charter type school to where you privatize, you could start to see possibly athletes jumping to that school, I suppose. So, but that's above MHSA. That's really it on the update. The other two proposals we're going to roll into the next part. Do they have questions so far? Okay, the other two proposals that did pass, one was the 8th grade participation and then the sports physicals. When we talked in the meeting, our last meeting, I don't even know if it was the last one or before, but the physicals was, the proposal was to change it to a 2-year rotation. And that one did pass. A lot of the concerns that they had at the meeting was the same as we had here. What do you do in the meantime? What that gap year? And they said, well, there's a simple form you'd send home with a parent and they fill it out at home. If something was to happen, or they could jot down notes. It'd be junior year, freshman year. I think that's how it was, junior. So, yeah, is your rotation. So when you come into high school, you have one, then you have one in 7th grade, so 7, 9, 11 is the rotation for those. I wanted to put it on for you guys to think about. We can do our own policies on this, and they even made that clear there. The biggest argument that they had a medical professional there from Billings who said, when sports seasons come around, we have this influx of thousands of athletes trying to get sports physicals at the same time, and we just are basically putting signatures down. They don't do a good job. And we talked about that here also, but we're in a different situation here where we can provide the physicals fairly easily. There's not a huge burden on Pureview down there because they arrange it to get extra people up here to do a couple-day window. Some things that are pros, you're guaranteed that a child who's involved in sports is going to get some sort of a medical checkup. And that might be the only time they go to a doctor. If you stick with the 2-year, there's a lot that goes along. There's a lot that happens to a teenager, adolescent. We all know that. A lot of things changing, and everybody changes differently, and that could get missed. And that was a pretty shared opinion amongst the population down there. This one did not pass by as a unanimous vote. There's a lot of people against it, but it did pass with 2/3 majority, so it went through. And they kind of, I think one of the reasons it did go through is because they kind of said, well, your district can set your own things. You can still require one every year, which I would recommend that we instill to some fashion, require it out of our athletes to get that physical every year. I think it's in good judgment on our part to be best suited for the kid. That's best practice in my opinion. That's the one I wanted to share on that. So maybe down the road we can think about just adding some language in the handbooks, the student handbooks, things like that, to reflect the need for that physical every year, unless somebody has some other thoughts. So,
It says it in there now, doesn't it?
because that's current practice, like MHSA even, but now MHSA is going to change that. So we would be not going against it, but we just requiring more. It's the same with eligibility. Like they only require semesterly, but we require more, like a 65%. Okay, and the other one was the 8th grade participation. They decided it did pass by 2/3 majority that an 8th grader could participate in both high school and junior high sports. again, there's a lot of reservations from a lot of schools. Your double A's and stuff, it doesn't affect them. They don't have that. Your C schools obviously do, and maybe some B schools will have that. Some of the concerns that came out was, well, how many games they could potentially play 4 games in a week. Practicing twice a day in between. They could have a practice on the same day as a game day. You're doing basketball 6 days out of 7 days. That's a lot on an 8th grade child. When do they get homework done? Family time. It's hard to commit to both. At that age, that's pretty taxing on the body, I guess you could say. That's a lot of work for somebody to try to dedicate that much time. And then how much can they fully commit? These are some of the cons of allowing the person to do that. Right now, it's you choose. You choose one or the other. You're going to get a benefit out of both depending on what level you're at. I mean, if you can compete and do well at the high school, then you should move up to high school and just run that gamut. It's a longer season, longer practices, more intense. And so that alone is going to accomplish what I think the intent was, to try to support those programs if you're ready for that level. And I think we have a practice in place that justifies that pretty well. I do have concerns of both trying to do it. I thought back to my kids, it would be a lot. I think all of us maybe will. You had your daughter came up here too. I think it would just be a lot for those 8th graders to come up and try to do both. Yeah. So that was, again, we can put in policies in place. We can stick to the way we're doing it and just have them choose. So that is kind of how I'd like to recommend for future discussion. We'll put something in place that just says we're going to stay with our current policies. Or you guys have any comments on that one?
I don't know that it's in our kid's best interest to be playing 2 sports at the same time, honestly.
Right.
I mean, I know Mac is enough for her when she's doing travel ball and basketball at the same time.
Yes. And in their heart and their mind, yeah. They want to do it, but the body's like, you're not doing the right thing.
And the 8th grade child, that's a lot on them. They're growing there.
Yeah. So I thought a lot about it because I'm a go. I want them to go, and I push my kids, but I really thought I was like, what's the best thing? We as adults have to kind of put, this is not going to be best for the kids. So some of the argument was some schools, and I don't even know why this was an argument. Some schools have basketball and volleyball conflict instead of basketball. And then they tried saying that the overlap of the seasons isn't that much, and that actually only applies to the boys right now, the way it is. But the girls is a complete overlap. And then there's a ton of discussion about flipping and alternating, so that somebody's going to it's going to happen to where you're going to have an entire season where you're trying to do both. And I just don't think it's good practice. So I agree with you guys on that.
So if we were to, so if junior high boys go before the girls, and the girls fall in line with the high school season, are we gonna have to open it up for both if we allow 8th graders to play junior high and also high school?
Yeah, I think we should just have one uniform policy. Yeah. If they want to go up, great. If they're ready for it, go ahead. If they're not, then stay down, give an extra year, and go with it that way. I think there's room for some more discussion, and we'll get some language in place that reflects that. Okay. That was it on that kind of stuff. The next item I had was junior high football. We've been waiting for this bubble of boys to get into the age level they need to be, and I think next year is it. We finally got enough of the bodies, enough of the kids in place that we could offer junior high football next year, because it's been a few years out. We've been straddling that fence of we have 5 for sure, and just 6. Even if you have 6, that makes it very tough with injuries and things like that. Then you're playing 5 on 6. But I think next year we would have substantial numbers that would definitely support it. I mean, early indication was we'd have anywhere up to 12 is what I had found out in the fall. And that could easily be down to minimum numbers too, I don't know. But I certainly think it's worth trying to offer that program to get those kids back out on the field for junior high school football.
I agree.
So with that, I guess I'd like to post the coach openings just to start getting applicants in. And I don't know the termination date. I don't think I would terminate until we coincide with the rest of coach rehires, which would be June, maybe. Close it in May and then hope to do something in June, maybe do something along with that. So, okay.
So we just need to approve the junior high football program, or
I-
are we doing that?
We have it. We've just been not being able to offer it for lack of numbers. So it's in place, we just gotta, and this will give me to push with getting the equipment, make sure it's all up to snuff too, so. For sure. So I don't think we definitely need a motion, if you assume so, but we have it, we have junior high football.
Yeah.
We just haven't been able to offer it. It's not a use for it, like that.
Right.
Okay. Last item was the coach resignation for high school volleyball assistant, and I have that letter in front of me, just to accept that, and then I can add that as well. when I post the position.
Do I have a motion to accept, Wendy Townsend's resignation for the, assistant volleyball high school coach? Motion to Wendy Townsend's resignation. All right, Julie has the first motion, do I have a second?
I'll second.
Both seconds. Do we have any public comment? Public comment? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All right, motion carries.
That's all I got.
Circling back for the
Yep.
rules, what came about the 50-mile rule?
That got denied.
Okay.
Yeah, cause that one actually affected, that was the only proposal that got voted down quite a lot. There wasn't very many people in favor of it at all. Cause that actually does affect us, cause we are within 50 miles of Augusta, Drummond, and so it affected a lot of people. That radius was really weird, I guess. And they tried thinking about amending it, but the whole concept around it just wasn't good. And with NIL and the things that are gonna happen in legislation might be moved, I don't know. There's a lot of different things that have to happen. It almost got pulled before it voted, so. I'm sure it'll get revisited. They're just trying to handle transferring students. And they thought this would be an idea, but if a student moved from here to Drummond, they would basically, they couldn't participate because it's within 50 miles. Is the help where they have it written. Or Sealy, what was the Sealy? That's what it is.
50 for, depending on where you live.
Right. So, yeah, it affects a lot of different, in eastern part of Montana, probably too, because some of the schools are 30 miles apart. So, it affects quite a bit. So it got shut down pretty bad.
All right, perfect, thank you.
Yep.
All right. Clerk update?
Okay, so I'm gonna do the update, or start it. So, training with Carol is going well. She's a great trainer, and I'm so lucky to have her to get me up and running. So, thank you, Carol. And, I'm currently attending multiple trainings through Masbo in areas of budget, the new SBO trainings that they offer, and then trainings on elections. It's the every other week check-in to make sure that we're on task for the upcoming election in May. And then I'm continuing to get all the many accounts with the many logins transferred over to me, and safeguarding those login information. And there is quite a few. I've got a whole book of login information with passwords and stuff. So. And then working on the 25-26 budget through the budget prep and Black Mountain software. So Carol's training me how to do that. And it's a kind of a slow process, but we're getting through it, trying to understand it. And then recently just got the Chrysler minivan and the white athletics Evo bus registered through the MVD because the minivan was the registration was out of date since this past summer. So, so that was kind primarily my clerk update. And then the next topic is discussion on tax credit and innovation. I think that Kathy sent you guys a message that we tested it out and we're kind of, gearing up for next year. And it was successful with the few donations that we have for this year. So I think we'll get that up and running and have the information available on the website in a timely manner so that people can donate. And then those donations can be, then in return back to the community. And then we have the deadline for filing a petition for school board trustee position. So anyone wanting to run must have their petition turned in no later than March 27th. And so far, we just have one, and that's with Marlene Mulkey. And then trustees call for election to be approved. That's the election day is on Tuesday, May 6th, 2025. So included in the packet is the resolution which will be discussed and approved under new business. And then we have some new business items that we'll discuss. That's all I have for now.
Making me proud. Darcy talked about the budget prep and slowly getting that done. It's because we're so constantly busy. It's one thing after another, so just kind of fitting it in when we have time, right? I did not. I figured I didn't make Darcy try to explain the journal vouchers for correcting this several things from this last year. So I am going to try to explain my journal vouchers that were in the packet. So I know this has been, without a doubt, the most complicated. And it has had me stumped for a lot of years, but I finally got there. So first of all is the clearing account, which hasn't been balanced for a couple of years. And finally figured out that there was a payment to federal taxes that came out of the clearing account. Then it was taken, the expenditure was taken out, saying that we received it all, but we didn't receive it all. We only so it came out, over $9,000 came out for federal taxes as a duplicate payment. Because of penalties and fees, we only got a little over $7,000. So, and my clearing account was off by about a little over $2,008. So, what I ended up doing was having to move money from the general fund into the clearing account to make up that $2,005 difference with the federal taxes. And then there's about $3.56. It's just, I needed to do it to balance. So that when Darcy is balancing her clearing account, she will be able to balance to it and then do it every month. That was this first journal voucher is about the clearing account. And once we do this, hopefully we will be balanced this next month. So it happened in February, so we won't balance again until March. And so when I talked to my auditor about this, he said I needed to bring it to the board for approval, just for covering all our liabilities. I think I would need a separate motion to approve this clearing account journal voucher first, and that's the first one.
Okay, do I have a motion to approve the clearing account journal voucher? Make a motion to approve the adjustments to the clearing account. Julie has the first motion, do you Do I have a second?
Second?
Scott seconds. Public comment? Public comment? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion carried.
And next, journal vouchers are about cleaning up the miscellaneous fund, that's where all the grants are at. And so there were, expenditures to some of our old grants that were closed out, but, just because of how things were set up in the accounting software, it was still hitting, mostly it was health insurance that was hitting the old grants, so, I'm trying to figure out how to explain all of this, so basically I had to pull all the old grants and figure out what the cash balance was for each of these, and then get them all to balance to zero. Because sometimes the revenues were going into the wrong project codes or whatever, so, basically the Title I, I had to just take all of the older grants and get their balances to zero, and, it ended up being about $962 that was charged to old grants that you're gonna have to find funding for from the general fund. Gifted and talented, there was $179, not from this current gifted and talented, but it was from the, so 21 to 23 gifted and talented. There were more expenditures than there was money received from that grant. And then we have a grant that's called PAX. I'm still learning everything that's involved with that one because it's new from before, from when I left, we didn't have it, so. But the old grant, 22-23, was overspent by $48.66. Numerous years of stuff to bus, the last few years, we had $100.07 that were, that was, all of those different grants were overspent. Some of them were underspent, but the net was $100.07. The big one was our literacy grant, from the last 2 or 3 years. I think this one was definitely health insurance, but it was $13,248 that, all the different literacy grants were overspent. So, anyway, the total for all of those different grants would be basically $539. It's going to come out of the general fund to reimburse those expenditures that there weren't any revenues for. Good news is there was VOED money for the last couple of years that wasn't spent, and the auditor did say that we could go ahead and spend that in the current year. So that's good news because usually you have to have that spent by June. I think that's about $1,800. So, okay, so questions on this? I can get you the spreadsheet if you want to see all of the different projects and where the cash balances were. Normally, you want your revenues to match your expenditures. And for the most part, that's what we're doing. But this, anyway, this is what has happened. The auditor wanted me to clean it up, and I did work with him on it, although he was leaving. So
He's putting us to.
Tom back probably, he's okay too.
Thank you for
I
all your
don't,
hard work and
I
your help.
honestly don't know what else we can do.
Right.
So,
Looks like it could do a lot of work.
I'm putting my hair out a lot. There's another journal voucher, the last one is, he also recommended that we simplify things, that we've got quite a few local grants that are older, to go ahead and to combine those for our new clerk, so it's not so many to, keep track of. So I did take, 3 different projects, outdoor classroom, which basically we've done what we need to do, we've got a little bit of extra money still hanging out there. And then, Tenacious Dames had donated $2,500. And previously they had donated to the after-school program, so to move that into our after-school funding. And then there was one other grant from Momanics that's just been hanging around for quite a few years. Just kind of moving that all into Project 201, which is after school. And we're hoping to maybe be able to use that for, Kathy's got ideas. Maybe swim lessons, who knows?
The swim lessons, maybe elementary basketball. We're waiting to get final figures.
We can talk about some lessons.
Personal opinion, that is one of the best things.
Right. And that's what we were talking.
What about golf lessons?
That starts July 1.
Okay, well, anyway, I know it's not simple, but if you have questions, please ask, and if not, if you can approve this journal voucher, I'm hoping that in March we will have balanced, we'll be balanced to our treasurer's report, and hopefully the trustees will be a little easier this year.
Any questions?
Yeah.
All right, do I have a motion to, approve the journal vouchers for the cleanup, to balance the miscellaneous?
I'll make a motion to clean up.
All right, Scott has the first motion, do I have a second? Julie seconds. All right, public comment? Any board comments? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Thank you guys for working on that.
Mhm.
All right, super.
Okay, first thing would be the school newsletter. We had the older kids working on it first part of the year, and they had to change their schedules around. So now the 8th grade class and Mrs. Reno are working on the newsletter, and I think for the first one, they did a very nice job of information in there.
That really slam dunk in there too.
Let's see, the civil rights report is done and submitted. Accreditation, I have a little bit left to do on that, and that one should be done. Student council helped with the kindness week and had lots of different activities for the kids all through the week. And if you go in the front hallway, all the classes did posters, kindness posters, and they turned out really nice. And PDSO helped out and did hot chocolate for staff and students during that week too, so that was kind of fun. We just finished our spring count. For our fall count, we had 147 students. For our spring count, we have 136, so we're down 11 students. We're starting to look at the Montana Reads grant and what is required with that. One thing is board chair if they would like to sign. I just got this made out and you can
Just in case.
right along. Yes, so that grant is due the first part of March. And we're starting to put together information on it. And I expect this grant to be a very competitive grant this year. A couple of things that they changed on it. Native American is the percentage of enrollment for Native American students. That's one of the high ones, and if you have not received the grant. So there are several school districts that qualify for this grant. We have to be one of them. So we'll try and see what we can do with that.
I have a motion to approve Montana Reed.
I'll make a motion to approve the Montana Breeze grant.
Doug has a first, do I have a second?
I'll second.
Billy seconds. Public comment? Board comment? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Thank you. Sign it down.
Okay, this was a proposal we brought, last month, when we were looking at the safety act that went through the phone. And after we started looking at the cost and looking at what the needs were, we would like to table that for now and work on the needs of the district. There's some doors that need to be replaced so that they're solid between, the portable classroom, the weight room, and the equipment room. For many years, we talked about putting window film on these windows here, so that you can't see in, but you can see out. I'd like to try that, and what our loudspeaker outside is not working. Broken, I don't know if somebody hung on it or what, but it's broken and needs to be replaced. And then Eric did some research on the wiring that runs the intercom system, and the wire is the wrong gauge for the length that it's going. So we would like to redo that, and with all those figured in, it would be about $1,000 to upgrade. And when we looked at the safety app, it would be great, but it's kind of like putting the cart before the horse, because we still have issues that we would like to address in each facility. So we would like to proceed that way.
Is it my turn? Oh, yes. Sorry. Spring music trip? Yeah, I'm keeping my distance because I'm a little bit sick, so I'm trying to be nice to you guys. So 2 years ago, I took the 7th through 12th band kids to Silverwood, and it was a really successful trip. I would like to do that trip again this spring, and I will need your approval because it is in another state. So what they will do is perform in the park for 30 minutes. In exchange for our performance, we will get reduced price tickets into the park. And we spent about 4 hours riding the rides and stuff after we performed last time. And I want to do this same trip, except I would like to invite some of the 6th grade students to help bolster our numbers. And I think that they would bond really well with the 7th and 8th graders. So I think it would be a good experience for that. My plan for selecting students is to review them 3 separate times before we leave for the trip with the 3-strike system. So I'll check in with them like March, April, May. And I'm thinking the date for the trip is May 30th, just to give you an idea. That's not set in stone, but it seems to be
the best date with track stuff going on. It is the day before graduation, but I only have one senior, so as long as that's okay with her, then I think that will be fine. Anyways, back to approving the kids. I expect them to be passing all of their classes and just acting with a trustworthy character in all aspects of their life to prove that I can trust them on this trip with us. So for funding, I'm estimating about $120 per student, and that includes the bus fare, the food, the park tickets, and bringing the chaperones along with us. For chaperones, I'm hoping to do about a 1-to-5 ratio instead of the 1-to-8, just so we're a little on the safer side. Band students have been doing concessions to help raise money for this, and then I had a parent donate some handmade baskets to do a raffle for, so I'm hoping to get that going as another fundraiser later on. And then the itinerary for the trip would be one long day. We'll leave early in the morning, perform around noon, and then we'll have lunch, play in the park, and try and leave around 5 o'clock, which will put us back early in the morning, a little after midnight, but I would rather do that than try and get hotel rooms for 30 people. So I think that is all my information. Do you guys have any questions for me about the trip?
How many students are going?
If I had all 6th through high schoolers go, it would be about 30.
That's not including chaperones?
That's not including chaperones. Watching the kids' grades, I would estimate it would be about 30 with chaperones at this moment in time. I hope for them all to go, but realistically, it'll probably be about 30 total.
Any questions? All right, do I have a motion to approve the spring youth trip?
I'll make a motion to approve this thing.
All right, so we have the first motion, do I have a second? I'll second it. Maybe a second. Public comment? Public comment? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Thank you.
Have fun.
Oh, we will.
Approved driver's education program and first for spring 2025.
Okay, George is interested. Yay. Right now we're working with OPI and certification and trying to get everything in line. So right now, if we could approve a program, and as soon as I can get stuff together, which will probably be next month, we'll come back to the board with contract. But yes, I think
Working
he's
on a
kind
heart
of
attack here.
Yeah, I think he's kind of excited about it. In fact, what the kids said, do driver's ed, which is very needed.
That's awesome. All right. A motion to approve the driver's education program and instructor for spring. And the instructor times for spring 2025. Make a motion to approve the spring 2025 program. And Julie has first, do I have a second?
Second.
All right, public comment? Public comment? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All right, motion carried. That's exciting. That means saying Georgie back up. I know. McKenna too. They need to read it.
Some of them always see that tape.
He didn't have McKenna, he had Kylie. That's very true. Do you have the 25, 26 school calendar?
These right now.
Oh, okay.
And I'll let Shane start talking about these first.
Okay, you want to just hand that out, I guess?
There's 4 of them.
Oh.
So a few of us throw down ideas. And then, a couple of them are basically the same version, 1 and 4, I believe. Basically the same calendar, just one day shifted. The other 2 which are the 1 and 4, no Fridays. There's a group of us that like to try to do some Fridays just to get us school earlier, which is your version 2. Version 3 was something I've been thinking about, coincides with your college, or your college level, so semester would be done at Christmas, start second semester when we get back at the end of January. I wasn't sure if it'd work, threw the numbers on paper, it wasn't, I don't know, there was some votes, there was some interest in it, but not enough. We did it on paper, we also did an online voting thing, and number 4 won in the voting amongst the majority, which is no Fridays. The concern that some of us have, because it's the same exact calendar as number 1, except parent-teacher conferences is the Thursday right before spring break on number 4. So there are a lot of us, including myself, we take off a lot of times on that day to get an early jump start on if you're traveling to see family over that Easter break. Thursday's a travel day sometimes. And if you're stuck here, it kind of makes it very difficult how many people would show up. So the other version, number 1, which is basically the same days, no Fridays, except we moved the quarter ends a week earlier, so the parent-teacher conferences can be the week before that Easter break. So that was the difference. So when you're, even though 4-1, I guess I'm looking for a little board power, if you want to word it that way, to say maybe we should go with version 1 just simply because it's the same thing except the parent-teacher conference. I don't know, we don't have any staff here. I know we are like-minded, I don't know, you're the only other staff, if you had any input on.
I mean, I didn't notice a difference between 1 and 4 personally. I was like, what is the difference? I was trying really hard. And that makes a lot of sense to me too. So, I mean, I don't disagree with going with 1 for that reason.
Unless you really want to go against the grain and go with Fridays, but no, I'm just kidding.
I agree, Shane. I feel like if we have that parent-teacher conference day, the day before our spring break, no one's gonna come.
There'll be some people here, but I think it'll be watered down, so to speak, and we wouldn't get the numbers that we want.
I agreed with Shane. I like the idea of a couple Fridays sprinkled in, especially to keep that 40 week, but the majority voted for obviously not having Fridays, so if we're going to go with that, like we said, I feel like if you do that parent-teacher conference day before break, I just don't know that we're gonna get a lot of participation.
And while we're looking at that, just curious on the semesterly thing coinciding with college type, I don't know. I didn't hear a lot of feedback from staff on it, I don't have a clue. If you guys have any, feel free to comment on any of them.
October 16th, 17th is red. What is that?
Those are NEA days, those are teacher convention days. So those are always days off.
I kind of liked the idea of that semester, the semester, sorry, I'm losing my voice, but that semester ending and then starting fresh when they come back from Christmas, because if you look, it's like, you pretty much have, sometimes 2 weeks, by the time you get your work in, it would be like probably a week and a half, and then, and that's like, right after break, they've had that huge break, they're out of the mindset, and then they come back and they've got, a week and a half or 2 to get their stuff in at the end of the quarter. I liked the idea of having that end of the quarter before break, so that way they come back, like you said, Shane, kind of fresh, ready to go. I guess that probably applies more so to a high school,
Yeah.
but.
Other school districts out there, they're playing around a lot with Fridays. Some of them take the first part of the year, first semester, do a bunch of Fridays. And then the second they don't, they keep interjecting things, toying with these different hybrids. 5 on, I don't know, it was all chunked up, different school districts, Knox and Drummond, they all do different things. So anyway.
I think when we went to a 4-day week, we were like number 7 for this week. Right now, there's 206 school districts that have a 4-day week. after Easter, after spring break. They're gonna go to 4-day week and see what the feel is in the communities.
Well, if it's me, I'd wanna come to school on a couple of Fridays just to get out early in May instead of have to come back in June, but
Shane, remind me, were those weeks that we had, it was still a 4-day week? When we had like Monday off?
I think there was,
yeah.
I think there was one, well, the college related one wasn't, there's a couple 5-day weeks. That's the only way you could make it. Say your quarter of semester tournaments.
For the quarter camps?
A lot of the arguments, weather, I mean, I've even heard proposals, let's start after Labor Day and then get out June 20th. Like, I'm not very high on that idea, but, just because of weather purposes, they say it's raining all the time in June. I mow a lot of grass in June, so it can't be raining.
Hey, but at least it's above 32.
Yeah. So anyway, those were the ideas, just throwing out different stuff. 4 was the majority, but like I said, number 1 is, it's an identical calendar, it's just the parent-teacher conference date is different, so.
And I followed Shane and Joan on number 1, with the parent-teacher conference before Easter spring break. I just don't think you'll have the parents.
So the majority was number 1, not number 4?
No, the majority was number 4, which was parent-teacher conferences, right,
Oh, okay.
Oh,
But other than that, they're exactly the same calendar.
I made a note on there, I think you can see all the scribbling, somebody scribbled out, I was trying to point out that, just to let them know that this is right there, it might be something, I don't know why.
They start the same day, get out the same day?
Yeah, they're identical calendars, we just moved the parent-teacher conferences.
I know.
Yeah.
I think, over the years, I think you look at the start date where it ends, and that's what they vote.
Yeah.
And it's been perfect.
I made a note. Didn't- it wasn't taken right. So anyway.
Be a tough one.
So you guys wanted to go with option 4, since that was the majority vote?
We would like to go option 1. 1 and 4 are the same calendar.
Okay.
1 didn't get any votes, which I'm not sure why. I didn't vote for it because I wanted Fridays, so I could get out earlier. So I have no input on why votes went to 4 and not 1. Like I said.
Okay, because that one's just moving the teacher conference.
Yep.
From, oh, okay.
If you're gonna go with the schedule that has no Fridays, that one makes sense.
Yeah.
The other one doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, because they don't want to do it on Fridays, this one, number 1 would make more sense.
Yeah, that makes sense.
They don't want to do Fridays.
And I don't know that I'd recommend trying to overrule the,
No.
as much as I'd be in favor of it, I'll save you some grief.
I would say the reason 4 has all the signatures instead of 1 is because somebody didn't really see the difference. They signed number 4, then everybody else saw the signature.
We can ask Michaela when she first looked up, that's what, kind of what she had said a little
Yeah.
bit. when-
Right.
when she had said that.
And I think
Even though
vacation
we're-
Fridays might be tough for some parents to schedule their work and what the kids are doing.
couple
It
of
was,
years ago.
last year we did one every,
We did Fridays the last 2 years, maybe 3, but 2 for sure. And they always coincided with a holiday, so it was still a 4-day week, except for one weekend to be 5.
Those are my favorite, just personally.
Right.
I feel like my kids adjusted better, even though they are in high school, just because they're still kind of in the rhythm of the 4-day
Yep.
week, you know?
It's not popular for some reason, amongst the majority of them.
I had asked Sarah about it, sounded like there were quite a few days on Fridays that kids didn't come.
I think she said a lot of teachers too.
Who said that?
Sarah.
were you saying that you didn't realize that option?
I didn't notice the
Forward.
parent-teacher
Okay.
conference thing.
So
I
you
mean,
think
they were
that's
so
probably why the
close
votes
to me
were-
that it was hard to tell. For me, it's either we come on Fridays or we don't.
Too hard to remember when you're mixing and matching,
I just don't,
not
but
consistent.
that's just me. It's first year teacher here, don't listen to me.
Your input's always appreciated.
Thank you.
That, and I do think the parent-teacher thing is gonna be an issue. I mean, I myself, when we do spring break, that's like, I always take one day coming back or the one day before, and I try and do it before, cause I feel like they're not missing as much when they come back. I want them here on the day they come back, cause I feel like they're gonna, you know, it's a fresh start, it's hard, but if there's a, you know, flights are super expensive on a day or something, we plan on trying to go somewhere, I always, that's like my buffer is the day before spring break. I count that in, you know, if we have to leave then we can.
We all know Friday, Saturday, Sunday flights are more expensive.
Yeah, yeah. So, just.
I like one.
Yeah.
Parent.
I don't
I
know
remember
if I-
one probably.
How come the admin just doesn't pick the one they think?
Wanna have a staff, boss, have a staff.
Tightening the.
Sometimes there's a discrepancy between, upper grades and lower grades and what they think their kids can do and stuff like that. And it was just easier to say, okay, here's a couple options, you guys. Look at it and say, what's the state? So, and it ended up going out to the staff to vote for it.
And now they can't complain, right?
That's right.
Unless we pick Friday, then yeah.
I don't mind Fridays, but I don't like the 5-day week. I, you know, especially for the little kids, that's pretty long for them.
See, on version 2, I think there's only one. There's one 5-day week, I think. The other thing, look, your kids that are involved in sports and even just summer camps in general, all those start the first week of June. Like, we miss a 6-man football camp this year because
We're still in school.
we're still in school. We can't go to 6-man camps. And next year we won't be able to either, but it is what it is.
Yeah, 4 Fridays on that one, and, yeah.
Same for academic camps.
Yeah, there's church camps too. There's a whole bunch of camps that go.
It seems like a lot of people get out of school at the end of May, like that Labor Day weekend or whatever that holiday is like the end of school for a lot of people. So you do get a lot of those camps that start
Yep.
right, like the
That's
first
why-
week in
That's
June.
why they schedule them there, because
Yeah.
most schools are out.
Yeah.
But, their option one that everybody wants, they'd be going to school then.
Yeah.
Cause me, I'd do a couple, that one's only got 4 Fridays. You're out in May. Memorial Day's the last weekend in May, right?
Then people can take a vacation.
Mm-hmm. There's only 3 names on that one.
we did I put out a Google form because it was requested by the staff, so I put that out and it was 5, 5, well, number 1 was 0, 2 had 5, 3 had 5, and 13. Was the numbers. So if you combine the Fridays, it'd be 10 to 13. But anyway, you would have to choose 1 or 4 in my opinion. Like I said, I put 4, but you need to choose between 1 and 4. You either go with majority or you go with number 1, which is just moving that parent-teacher conference up a week, so we're not bumping up against spring break.
How come we couldn't start a week earlier? And then we still get, I know we're still sorting our summer, but then we're off in June when all the other stuff is going on.
People would rather push it the other way, because August is traditionally your best weather, other than there's smoke particles everywhere you can't breathe. But, so that's why they'd rather start after Labor Day and push it to what they consider the rainy season in June. I heard that from a few people.
I personally love the start earlier in August because the sports start anyways, depending on what everybody else is doing. So for us, and the kids have to have however many practices before the first day of school to participate, we're locked down anyways, you know?
I've shared that, and the argument I get is not all the kids are involved in sports.
Which is true, and I understand that you have, 44 in high school or whatever, and you probably have, half of those in, which makes sense, but.
No, I agree with you.
Yeah.
And if you did it that way, then you can open up more opportunities for the kids in June to do the camps and the programs that start that first week of June. So, I'd rather see us start sooner and get off.
And again, it's only half the students, or less than half, that go to the camps that would benefit, just like half the kids would benefit by starting early.
Well, there's not just sport camps, there's academic camps.
Right.
Like, it's not just sports in June. In June, it's everything.
And if
We
they
bump
don't
it up,
go to
that's
the
moving
camps,
our
it doesn't
third
hurt.
quarter back down, and that's putting a parent teachers conference right before Easter break.
See, and that's the other thing, your Christmas, the day of Christmas, the day of New Year's, kind of dictates your split. And if you move it up a week, then you're gonna have to figure out a way to end semester before Christmas. Cause then you'll come back for 1 week. Be pointless.
There's no way to make it perfect.
Yeah.
And please everybody. Right.
So given what's at hand, I would say, I would recommend going for it.
I'll make the motion to go with option 1.
Not that I should be making a recommendation.
We got Billy has a motion for option 1, do I have a second?
I would second that.
There's a second, any public comment? Or comment? All in favor, say aye. Anybody against? Right, motion carried.
That's to prevent a coup.
Don't want me to go back. General fund levy?
Okay, I've been watching the legislature and governor's proposals and all of that, and election laws. I would like to run in the levy this spring. At this point, I'm not ready to say an amount. There's a lot of wheels turning, and I'm not sure exactly what it's gonna land on at this point. And also with the mill levy, I'm kind of looking down the line on what to do with staffing. I probably will not make recommendations for teachers till probably April, so we know exactly what our monies are. And I talked to the staff about this last week. I'll probably do a staggered record hire and do tenured teachers first, and then work down. And if the legislature, it's hard because the legislature doesn't get out till the end of April. And during the last 2 weeks, a lot of bills come back to court before they're ever approved. So you kind of flipping a dime, saying, okay, is it gonna go this way? If you guess wrong, then you're kind of in trouble. So if we could do tenured teachers in April, followed by hopefully in May, non-tenured and classified, and then either May, June, coaches. I think that would be a benefit to the district when you're not putting yourself at odds with your budget. And in a legislative year, it's kind of hard to guess, especially where we're sitting right now, knowing that we'll be tight and screaming by the time we get to the end of June.
When would you be, do you think, you could, how do I say this? You would be close to being ready to list an amount for that mill levy for voting, so people know ahead of time.
We have to list it by, I'm trying to
By the
remember
time the
the
ballots
date.
are certified, and I think that's the first or second week in April, I imagine we might want to have something. Earlier than that.
Yeah, it'll have to be in March.
What's the detriment to going too high on a mill levy?
It won't pass.
But how, I know you want to go as low as you can, so it would pass, and that's where you wait for legislation. Let's say, yeah.
And it's gotta get publicity out, so that everybody knows what they're voting for. And what the impact is to each individual.
Will we be sending letters or sending out letters to community? I know we did that a few years ago, we just asked that to throw in the boxes or general public type. Maybe a few extras done at the senior center. Posters.
What if,
And that'll be a visit to the senior center, they do better parking. And so, if we do decide on, yes, we are, and this is gonna be the amount, we gotta get information out.
I'm kind of doing a rhetorical, but what if we don't get the funding we're thinking we might get in legislation, and we go too high, and people don't accept that mill levy?
That's why you do the staggered hire.
So then you're gonna wait for that, and then,
Unfortunately.
yes.
We will have numbers, we're happy of where the budget's at and.
So we'll have it probably when there's an action.
No. It's hard to know where the general fund's gonna be in the legislative year. The legislature is making, there's pretty complicated things. We're definitely looking at it. Man,
They have a lot of proposals out right now with education and funding and teacher salaries, and all that has to be taken into account. We may want to move negotiations up because there may be some issues that we need to address earlier than later. With some things that are coming out of the legislation. But we're waiting for things to kind of fall right now.
How do you get that information?
There's a legislative website, and if you go in there, I think it's, LEG.gov,
Hmm.
something like that.
Cause I know some of them are on all them emails that they give us, but I get a headache on the first one going through all them and.
Some of them has gone to, into a session, so you'll get the bill, and like the first 20 lines are all crossed out. So then you're sorting through it and trying to figure out, okay, they took that out, what did they add in, and how did they change it? And that happens a lot. And, a lot of bills get passed because somebody will say, I'll put this in there if you'll vote for this. And so then you get this group that goes forward, and they get these little things tagged onto the bills, they get passed, and some of them are amazing. What gets passed. That's how we ended up in the multi-district plan. That got tagged onto the bottom of the bill.
Savings this year.
Yeah. But, so it's hard to tell, and when they get down to the bottom of the session, it's like everything's a free for all when they're trying to get things passed or forward. So, I don't have a straight answer for you, because it changes, weekly. Sometimes daily.
What did we ask for last election?
127,000, your max amount.
Oh,
When I went back and looked historically, we passed one for 30,000 by 2 votes. So you have to look at what the community is. You have a ton of snowbirds here, and they don't want to see taxes go up. But, so you try to come up with a number that you think your community will support.
These last two votes we had, neither were more than two, and the last two levies passed.
so what was the one before that? Also 30,000?
I don't remember. Should have been- I will look that up for the next one.
It's very thin margins.
There's been several votes, 2 or 3 votes. Okay.
We've never been at the max, I know when I was doing studies and stuff, which has allowed us, which not many school districts have the luxury of, because they already have their max. We have always had the room because we don't ask for the max.
We asked for the max last year and not passed. They do, in training, they tell you, don't always ask for the max. You also have to know your community.
So do you need us to do anything with this one now?
I think you have to approve the district triennial levy, right?
Will be
That
the
is
resolution.
Yeah, that's the next.
Oh, okay, perfect, so we don't have to.
Not for that.
Any questions? Right. Resolution.
And it should be.
Oh, there it is.
So as Kathy mentioned that we're gonna have an election. There's gonna be 2 purposes for the election. The first is gonna be the mill levy, which will be determined how much that will be at a later date. Be notified of that. And then the second is the 2 elect 2 trustees for a 3-year term. And as I mentioned, we just have one form so far that's been turned in. Those forms have to be turned in by the 27th. So the purpose of this calling for election is to let the voters know that we have an election, what kind of election it is. Is it going to be mail or full election? It's going to be a full election. And where the location is, and the purpose is, and then election judges who will be running that election. And so we just need to have you guys approve that once you.
Can we approve it if we don't have an amount on the mill
Yes.
levy? Okay, I didn't know.
Specifically says that in election law, but next board meeting, hopefully we'll have a better idea.
And then we can also cancel part of the election if we get, let's say we just get 2 people that, sign up to run, then we can cancel that part of the election and have it be, election by acclamation. So then we wouldn't have to run election for that part, just the mill levy.
Any questions on that?
What if there's write-in candidates? Then would you still have to have an election in?
Well, we'd have to look into that, but I think that to be a write-in candidate, you'd have to file, so we'd have to know in advance.
Right.
Yeah, the writing.
Right. The write-in candidates have to file before the date that the election, that part of the election could be canceled. So you would know, if you have a write-in candidate, you would have to.
Yeah.
I don't think what that date was.
It's on the election.
It is on there. Do you need to know?
No.
Alright, do I have a motion to approve? Hi, my name is Beth. To approve the election resolution? I'll make a motion to approve the election resolution. Right, Julie has the first motion, do I have a second?
I'll second.
Emily second, public comment? Board comment? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Right, motion carried. Proclamation for budget amendment, retirement fund.
So when I was putting together the retirement fund for this year, I knew it was tight and I had brought the budget up as much as I could without causing too much problems with the county superintendent. But I knew it was gonna be tight. And then, just this last week, we got a bill from Great Divide, the co-op, our special ed. It's from last year's bill that wasn't paid for $15,312 retirement. I'm pretty sure it was just, they usually come together and she saw one, but not the other one, so. And then Great Divide did not catch it. They should have, I will say that. But, so I got that bill. And that made me take a closer look at the retirement account and talk to OPI and the county superintendent. So when I did calculations for payroll for the rest of the year, our retirement fund was gonna be a little short anyway. We have operating reserves that are $43,600 that are just operating reserves you have every year. I did find out from OPI that we can use those operating reserves to increase our budget. We have to do another budget amendment, so in this one, we have to do the proclamation first, and then next month, we'll do the amendment, the actual amendment. The proclamation needs to be posted on the website, on the door, and, let's see. What else? We need this money to, fund this year. And when I talked to OPI, they are okay with it, and the county superintendent is okay with it, she understands. And then next year's budget, will just be building our reserves again. Any questions?
Do I have a motion to approve the proclamation for budget amendment for the tax fund? I'll make a motion to approve the proclamation. Julie has first, or second?
I'll second.
Julie seconds. Public comment? Or comment?
Our public has left.
Still
Wendy's
here.
still down there.
I'm here.
There's.
Doing hiding down there.
You know, tinkering.
Scott, you said you have something to say?
Yeah, but I don't, yeah, I have something, but I don't know what I have. That makes sense.
If you just move along.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
We can just jump
All in
over.
favor, say aye.
Be here.
Aye.
Aye.
Motion carried. Alright. Alright, this one I asked to have put on here, so, our next meeting is for March tenth. I will be in Billings at BPA. In the past, we have, well, last year we moved it to the Wednesday, of that same week. In the past, they've continued to have the meeting, and then I think Wendy just zoomed in. So thoughts on that, because I will not be present at that meeting. I can zoom in, or we can just move it to the Wednesday.
What would you like?
Julie, what would you like? You'd be running the meeting. I prefer to move it, just because BPA gets a little crazy, especially that night, and the kids are all running them up, and they're strap on, but.
And it's hard to think straight because you're running off of no sleep.
Yeah. It's a little difficult, and I know that Wendy and those guys also like to come to the meeting. Wendy and Stevie will both be there as well, so. You guys have fire meetings on Wednesdays? No?
Thursdays.
Thursdays, okay. Would Wednesday at 7 work for you guys?
Yeah, no problem.
Okay. So, do I have a motion to approve moving the meeting to March 12th?
I'll make a motion to move the meeting to March 12th.
Alright, I got a motion from Scott, do I have a second?
I'll second.
Julie second. Public comment? Board comment?
Somebody should text everybody and remind them
On Tuesday or Sunday?
Or
So that
maybe
you don't
Monday,
show up
yeah.
Monday?
Monday and Tuesday.
Julie sends out the invites.
Yes, she does.
She does a good job at that.
Yes, she
All of
does.
us.
I appreciate that.
So she'll send the invite out. And the minutes are attached to them now.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Except just a reminder on my phone, so Monday morning I get an alarm saying there's a board meeting, which is annoying.
No,
But you
it's there
remember,
for,
don't
yeah.
Yeah, sometimes.
All right, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All right, motion carried. Thank you, guys. All right, last but not least, SB 307.
This was in place before I left. By March 1st, you're supposed to forecast what your non-levied funds, what you think your non-levied funds are going to increase. And really our only non-levied fund other than retirement, which is completely different. But the transportation is our only non-levied fund. I know we gave an increase to Doug and Lori this last year, so I guess I don't see raising it, but, as long as we approve this by March 1st, then if we do have to raise it, we are allowed to do that. And it would be for reasons, say negotiations go higher than we thought. Or bus mileage, or bus route increases in miles. all the other funds are not, they're not ones that we budget for, so. Basically, under this SB 307 right now is saying that we do not foresee raising our transportation fund at this time. It's all, it's surprising with everything else that said tonight.
Any questions? All right, do I have a motion to approve the SB 307 notice?
Make a motion to approve the SB 307 notice.
All right, I got a motion from Scott, do I have a second?
Second.
Doug seconds. Public comment?
We'll make sure we post it.
Board comment? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion carried. Any reason for an executive session? It is 8:27, do I have a motion to adjourn the meeting? I'll make a motion to adjourn. Okay, Julie has the first, do I have a second?
Second?
Ms. Scott?
Yeah.
Public comment? Board comment? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All right, motion carried. Thank you. I did it fine, sorry. Did you not send it to everybody? Oh. I'm gonna go watch it, send it right on down.
Meeting next Thursday.
Oh, not this Wednesday, but the following Wednesday. Yes. I don't have any questions, because a lot of them just are redundant. It's saying, everybody else. If that's what you're talking about, questions, right?
I'll send them out to everybody, I didn't realize that you didn't send them to everybody, because you sent that email literally right after I emailed her asking about it. So,
Well,
I figured that she just.
I guess to answer your question, no, I didn't get the email, but I wasn't gonna submit some questions anyway.
The only thing I could think of is some of those questions will be divided into one. But it sounds like she has her own set of questions. She's like,
So then I'll send those to you, and you got the other one that you will be on 19, 370, and you can be there when the interviews are.
Now, each person, the specific times. On that email about the questions, do you want a reply? What, I don't have no questions, or?
If you reply back to us.
Yeah, no,
Okay.
yep, and just,
I'll just reply, no questions here.
that's what I was thinking, that she had to have sent it to everybody, because she said, I'll send it to all of you, but reply only to me.
I
I'll
haven't,
send it to you.
I haven't got it.
Reply to me directly. No, that's what I thought, when I got the email today, that's why I thought that she had sent it to everybody.
Yeah.
So I'll
And I
forward
took
it.
it, she was asking me to, so I was like,
I guess I do have one question. Why do you wanna live in Lincoln? All right, but why not? I don't know.
Yes, I'll send those tonight.
well, I will.
Yes, huh? Got it.
Come on.
Oh, yeah, oh, yeah, you can go home to bed.
Oh, that's not gonna happen.
I'm sorry, I should have got it. Oh my gosh, I'm worried.
did you turn it off?
I just